Shut up, compressor. Okay, so the B-17's wings have been glued together and slapped onto the fuselage. And, yeah, so let's go ahead and see kind of how things are looking here. Obviously, the fuselage, as we've been through, is good overall at a macro level when it comes to the joins. Not so great when you zoom in. So everything, generally goes together, right? But up here, there's a gap that we've had to fill. This is okay. The upper deck thing all around is a little bit wonky, but nothing really terrible except back here, where it's just not the right size. I can't make the plastic bigger, so that requires filling, that requires destroying a generous amount of surface detail in order to get everything right, and so on. The tail is a little bit rocky too. It's hard to see through the primer, but generally the thin edges of this kit, the tail, the ailerons, things like that, I'm finding they don't go together very well. Another little disappointment in a parade of little disappointments. The leading edges, let's see if I can actually show this thing and if it won't hit the freaking camera. Leading edges of the wings. So this one, I know that we've already walked through it, but basically it came down to a choice of, do I want the wing root to match and everything from these outer nacelles out to the wingtips to line up pretty well, or do I want to try to get stuff in here to fit? And I basically had to make a choice because, again, I cannot change the shape of the plastic, and I cannot change where the details happen to lie on the plastic unless I erase them and start over with scribing. And so basically I had to make the call, and that means that the surface detail, especially right in here, is out of register and does not line up. This little insert here on the nacelle, the inner nacelle for the exhaust, is shit. It doesn't fit really. It's like when you line it up here, doesn't fit out here, doesn't fit back here, doesn't fit with the profile of the leading edge of the wing. Just over and over again. Little bullshit that frustrates and degrades interest in the build. If we come around to the, let's go and look at the back of the aileron here. You can see how, they did the super asshole thing of having ejector pin marks literally in here that had to be removed. But even once those were removed, it just does not want to sit on the aileron. And it's like, okay, guys, if that's going to be a problem, make them separate parts. It's easy enough. Leave the wing as is and, have little tabs here and stick that thing in there. It's fine. A lot of kits do that in 1/32 scale. Not a big deal. In 1/48 for something of this size to do that. But again, it feels like another exercise in where can we cut a corner and be lazy so that we can put all of our effort into the glorious surface detail. Moving on to the port wing. The port wing actually went together better, amazingly enough. If you see here, the out of register surface detail on the other side was not as much of an issue here. These lines both line up very well. It's just this outer line right here, and then the actual heavy rivets around the nacelle where you get out of register, but they're pretty minor compared to the other side. Once we get out here, everything more or less lines up. The outer nacelles are okay. The inner nacelle exhaust plate, again, shitty fit. One thing that sucks about these is they don't really have good depth control, so trying to glue it in, all of a sudden halfway through it decides I'm going to go a little bit deeper than you wanted, and you have no recourse. So yeah, the inner shape of this nacelle, if I can find a way to show it. The good thing is it's a very hard thing to see, but the inner shape of this nacelle is actually better and more unregistered than this side. Still, one other fun thing about this is If you're familiar at all with HK kits, you know that they have these wing lock mechanisms kind of built into them so you can slide the wings on, push them back, and they hold in place. Well, the starboard side is so tight that I was afraid I was going to break the kit, and if nothing else, reopen seams and pry parts apart. It took that much force. Port one went on much better, but here, look down. Look down from the wing root back. The starboard side is generally okay. It does line up. The port side, though, come on, focus further back, you piece of shit. The port side, as you can see right there, has a big old step. Huge step. And I've been coming in and trying to push down, and no amount of pushing down erases it. It's just there. And even better, when you go onto the bottom, it's on the bottom too. So this entire wing is like substantially too thick. And then this one at least comes off though, in theory. So, yeah. I mean, my best theory is that it's somehow pushing it up. Like once this is inserted and all that kind of business. Come on. The other fun thing is these things do not. So my theory is once it's in here like this and pushed back, that actual locking mechanism is kind of pushing things around a little bit and literally elevating them, spreading the wing apart. But at the same time, if that's the case, come on, motherfucker. All right, hold on. 1, 2, 3, go. There we go. If that's the case, why isn't it happening over here where it is a much, much tighter fit? So let's see if I can do this. Jesus Christ. Okay, so that is where we're at. And I need to turn the camera around for the next part of this. So when it comes to models, I have something of a philosophy. And that's basically from the time I open the box and actually start working on a kit, I have a certain amount of fucks to give. And it's usually a race against the clock, effort, whatever, to see if I can get the kit to a certain point before the fucks run out. And that's not to say that the level of fucks is constant. Little annoying bullshit that I have to fix with a kit, if it's detail the kit didn't provide or detail the kit got wrong, if it's poor fit, oversights, shitty engineering, things like that, those basically erode the fucks pretty quickly, especially if I feel like it's not something where the manufacturer really tried and it just didn't quite work, or maybe it was like beyond their capabilities. Those I can more or less understand, when it's something like a limited run Pacific Coast Italian fighter, they're feels like they're literally making the molds out of like digging molds out of sand and pouring plastic into it practically. At that point, you can only expect so much. But when you have a modern state-of-the-art kit with, full high-pressure injection molding and a high price tag and gorgeous surface detail, and the manufacturer has a reputation for getting shit right most of the time, and they just don't, and it feels like the entire thing is half-assed, that's when for me, that is my modeling kryptonite. I just react very poorly to what feels like a lack of effort put into a product. So those kind of things will very quickly just pop a big ass hole in the bottom of my barrel of fucks, and they just start pouring out. On the other hand, when a kit surprises me with something really cool, oh, I didn't know that detail was there. Oh, these parts actually fit and hold together by themselves, and I don't have to deal with committing to glue now, but I can also test fit very easily. That stuff will actually restore my level of fucks to where I am happy to keep going, and even if I was flagging, that stuff will get me back going. And generally, if I can get a kit to paint, everything is going to go well, unless, like with the with the Great Wall SU-35, a big-ass decal issue popped up late in the game that was half my fault, half the fault of really thick-ass kit decals, but it just created my enthusiasm to keep going. So that's generally my philosophy is I'm out here to build for fun. I have a certain amount of, limited time to work on these things, and when I do, I want to enjoy what I'm doing. And so not only is there this whole level of fucks philosophy, there's also the law of the conservation of fucks, where if I have only so many fucks to give, do I want to give them to something that I am not enjoying, or would I rather keep them, hold them, and use them on something else? So with that, the B-17, the HK B-17 is, as of now, on hold for a number of reasons that all have to do with the evaporation of fucks. Basically, when I started this kit, I came in with a certain set of expectations just based on HK's past offerings. The B-25, skimpy on the interior, but it goes together really well, and the outside looks awesome and all that. The DO-335 has a really great reputation. The big B-17 has a pretty decent reputation. The Lancaster, again, skimpy on the interior, looks pretty awesome on the outside. So, came in expecting this, which is probably could have been their most significant kit to date, to be along the same lines. They probably half-assed parts of the interior, right? Parts that nobody will see. They'd get other parts pretty nailed. The surface detail is gorgeous, and I figured it would go together about as well as the about as well as the B-25 did, which was great. So, as I was working on this, and I know I said it in multiple videos, once I get past the interior, once we start building this thing, everything will be great. We can put it together, then we can paint it, we can have fun weathering it, all that kind of stuff. And that is just not what happened. So the interior of this thing, good luck seeing it now, right? The interior was basically a running disappointment the entire time. Everything from the seats to the control yokes to the instrument panel to the center console to the lack of any sort of machine gun mounts to the lack of ammo belts and cradles for the machine guns to a really shitty Norden bomb sight, at least the front side that you can see right through the glass. Basically all of that stuff was frustrating, but it was one of those, it's on the inside. I can get past that. Once we get that in, everything's fine. We can keep going. But then you start gluing it together and you realize, wait, I'm going to have to do a lot of little bullshit cleanup. It's not so much that the cleanup is difficult, it's that this is a big aircraft and there's a lot of cleanup that has to happen on it. And do I want to spend my time doing that? Because, I have plenty of other kits I can be working on. So that's kind of where it all started to fall apart. Was obviously the upper deck and the back side of it here with that nice, awesome gap. Bomb doors, they could have been better, but I kept plugging along. Then I hit the wings, and the wings had those awesome register issues on the leading edge and the inner nacelle. Then we had these exhaust inserts that just fit like shit. Ailerons, not the greatest glue surface there. Then it came time to slap these onto the fuselage, and this one took an absurd amount of force, and the other one didn't, but decided to sit proud based on both sides, like it was too thick for the wing root, which is a whole other magnitude of cleanup that I really don't. My goal ultimately would be to have this where I could just have the wings stored separately and just chunk stick them on when I need to take it out. And that's just not going to happen with this thing. The fit is not there to pull that off, at least on one of the wings. And I figure if it's not there on one of the wings, it's not there on the other one. Now, as I've been fighting all this, I've also been reading comments that apparently the ball turret is a giant pain in the ass to install on top of everything else. So basically it came down to I've been spending, and I started working on this mid-December, so it's been 2 months of working on this thing. And that's 2 months that I could have been working on other things. And the whole point of me kind of dipping back down from 132nd to 148th was to hopefully get to paint and get to, ideally completion, but at least get into paint faster, so I'm not getting bogged down in projects that require months and months of work. And months of work. So I've never been one with modeling to go into the whole sunk cost fallacy of, well, I've come this far, so I have to keep going. I feel like every single night at the bench is a new night of experience, decompression, relaxation, fun, whatever it happens to be. And that doesn't mean I have to carry this thing through, at least right now. I may come back to it. I mean, I would like to see a big old B-17 in my display cabinet, but there's a lot of other things I'd like to see too. So for the time being, my interest in working on this thing has just completely evaporated. I am going to keep going with the P-47M. I'm enjoying that. And I've probably got a couple other things coming down the pipe pretty soon that should, I hope, be a lot more interesting than this guy. I may not video them, or I may not video them and do the whole rolling updates thing. It may be more of like a, here it is, boom, drop a whole bunch of episodes at once. But for now, this B-17 is signing off with nary a fuck to be heard. So that is that. Thank you for following along this far. I hope it has been useful for anybody evaluating whether or not to get this kit and whether or not it's something that you might enjoy, or if you were like me and you react negatively to a kit that very obviously did not get the rigor it really deserves, then hey, maybe I helped you dodge a bullet. So that's that. Thanks for watching. Keep following the P-47M and keep an eye out for other stuff to come soon. Check you later.